Agéníorsla an féidir am ceist a chur gatainna síochána hóga leabhar dul. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask everyone please to come in and take a seat as we're about to begin. Gur míle maigí. Agéníorsla bhailam fáilte mhór a chur roimh hiag ócáid spéisialta agus muidig seoldú anam agus féinúlach nua na hallscoile leis an ara breis ó idicus agus ardidicus, taide, nu álaíochta agus ólaíochta Simon Harris ar ball. Ladies and gentlemen, you are most welcome here today in what is a very special day for the university as we launch our new name, our new identity, Ullscoil na Gaillimhe University of Galway. And we are delighted that Minister Simon Harris, TD, the Minister for Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, will be here to do the honours shortly. Be Uachtarán na Hallscoile an Talamh Ciarán O'Hogarty, he will leave the stage to welcome the Minister later on this morning. A sense of place, identity and belonging is at the heart of who we all are. And today is a celebration of what Ullscoil na Gaillimhe, University of Galway represents. Our language, an Gaelic atá fíor hábhachtach an Ullscoil. Our connection with the city of tribes dating back to 1845. And the vibrancy of what this university brings to the city and county of Galway and beyond. Our launch takes place here in the Bailey Allen Hall, where just earlier this week, hundreds of students graduated. And our setup today includes preparations for us to welcome over 1,000 international students here to this hall tomorrow before we welcome all students back to study next week. It's an important time in students' lives, and Gaimage Ahanra Orhu. Just a few housekeeping rules. If I can ask everyone please to turn off their phones or put them on silent. And after the official launch, we will have refreshments out in the foyer that you just came here through, and we look forward to seeing you all there. It's a chance to mingle, a chance to talk, and we look forward to speaking with you all later. It's also a very happy story, so if you are inclined, hashtag University of Galway would love you to spread the good news here today of our launch. Ceol, Dausa, Filiocht agus Óráníocht is central to the vibrancy and culture of the university, And we are very pleased to have some of the members of Galway Traditional Orchestra in attendance today to perform for us now. In fact, almost back to where it all began, as Galway Traditional Orchestra's inaugural rehearsal was held here at the university's Aula Maxima in January 2019. The ensemble comprises students from University of Galway, young people visiting Galway from overseas, and of course performers from across Galway city and county itself. The orchestra members are aged 14 to 24, and not unlike the University of Galway, a theme of tradition, place, and innovation pervades its work. Galway Traditional Orchestra is managed by Music Generation Galway County, with whom the university is at present looking at working to explore opportunities for young performers living and studying in Galway. Performing the George Friedrich Handel composition, The Arrival of the Queen of Sheba, led by conductor Ita Geraghty, Agini Ushla, Corrigi Fáilte War, Ribbon Galway Traditional Orchestra. Go hálín ar fad an ceol ar an Chradasúnta na Gaillimhe, and we'll be looking forward to hearing more from Ita and the Galway Traditional Orchestra later on this morning. Bhhail an fáilte anis a chur ribh uachtarán ollscoil na Gaillimhe an talamh Ciarán Ó Hógarthaí chun cúpla focail ará.
Agus a fáilte ó bhuilig agus tá mé an áthas ar an bheith seo imagine agus míidir tagla chéile ar ócáid an háachta lá an háachta agus star na Hallscoile. You're all very welcome, very pleased to be here, and what's a very important occasion for us in the history of the university. And as we know, this time of year is an inflection point in any academic year. As Grania mentioned, we had graduation here this week where our graduates our students now, our graduates graduated, and this week also we have students arriving and starting next week. So this is where summer comes into autumn, where the shadows lengthen, the evening comes earlier, the busy world becomes busier. And this year is no exception. And this year particularly important and significant, I think also because we are hopefully coming into a period different than the last two academic years. And that's a very important inflection point as well in the history of the university, in that I've said at graduation and many times that we can't say it was the most challenging times we weren't here, but it certainly was one of the most challenging times in the history of the university the last 2 years, where we closed our campuses, not our university, in the spring of 2020, thought it was going to be for a semester, but there was another semester and another with the cyber attack, and yet another semester. And through all of that, we navigated particularly challenging times together. Agus tá mé dana bhuaictí bhuilig as an obair bhí sé deacar a gcónaí bhí frustrachas ann, ach tá mé dana bhuaictí as an obair agus tá mé dana bhuaictí as tacht as an taobh eile. So this is an important point as well, in our important inflection point in that regard. But the other inflection point this year is that we are renaming the university that has been here since the middle of the 19th century, that has had many achievements, and we build and stand on those achievements, but also look forward. And in the name, we haven't had a sense of nostalgia, but a sense of looking to the future. So Ollscoil na Gaillimhe University of Galway, tá sé anna himplí anna tholéir, is Ollscoilmid, tá muid in Gaillimh, Sás Gaillimh doing, Ollscoil na Gaillimhe, we're University of Galway, and it's very simple, very straightforward, University of Galway. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means in the context of Galway, but the small word of, I think, is also quite important. I always think words matter and have meaning. And of, the sound of it even is an open word, different from, let's say, from and particularly in. The way it sounds has that sense of openness, that sense of being open to the world. But we're not saying we're only in Galway, because we're, as we know, have medical academies in Letterkenny, in Sligo, in Ballinasloe, in Castlebar, in Galway itself. Tommy to the Honda Gaeltacht in Gweedore, Garna, or Gaharua. We have research centres in Carna and Carron and Macehead. So we're not only in Galway. And we're not either from Galway either, because from Galway suggests that we are somewhere else. We went somewhere else and we say we're from Galway. Very important that we are of Galway. And of, I think, has that sense of change, that sense of permeability with being shaped by this city, by this region. And that's a very important part of our identity that we are very proud of. So that sense of being of somewhere is quite deep in who we are and where we're from, but most importantly, we are of this place. And being of Galway has also meaning. Tá brí agus míú agus furfat le bheith as Gaillimh, nó gur Ollscoil na Gaillimhe muid. First of all, Galway is a diverse place. The CSO would tell us nearly 20% of the population of Galway is not only born outside Galway, outside Ireland. And being a diverse place makes us stronger, makes us better, wiser, more creative, more welcoming. And Ollscoil na Gaillimhe University of Galway has that sense of itself as well. Secondly, we're on the edge of Europe, but in the middle of things. And that's a very important aspect of who we are as well. Because I always, and sometimes I've quoted JFK when he spoke in Eyre Square, and with typical JFK poetry in 1963 when he was there. He said that if your eyesight was good enough and the weather was clear enough, you could see Boston. It's actually Newfoundland, but we'll give Kennedy his poetry. But that sense that in Galway, yes, we're on the edge of Europe, but we're also in the middle of things. And that's our sense of Ulster Galway University of Galway as well. We are on the edge, but in the middle of things. And then thirdly, in Galway, every time we wake up, we go down to Salt Hill or out to Renmore or by the bay, Closhariga. We also see the horizon every day. And when we see the horizon, like all great adventurers, great explorers, great researchers, great educators, we wonder what's on the other side. So Ulster Galway University of Galway also has that sense of itself, that we are exploring from this place which is in the middle of things, but also on the edge. And we want to find out what's on the other side. So those three aspects of being of Galway are particularly important as we announce and pledge our name today, that we are a diverse place and we are the better for it. We are a place that is in the edge of things, but also in the centre of things. And thirdly, we always wonder what's over the horizon, and with our students and in our research we explore. And that's a particularly important part of what we're saying today, not just a name change, but re-pledging what has been the history of this university, the people that passed through that made a difference. And I was thinking last night and this morning of when I first came 4.5 years ago, thinking of the video I made, which we dispersed that day, and thinking also of all that has happened since. But you may remember, I do, that I talked about going to the Arts Festival as a student here, and in Leisureland, of all places, Sweet Honey in the Rock, American gospel a cappella group. And their song, which I quoted at the time, the lyrics of, which was, and particularly important I thought at that time, but even more important now, every stone does form an arch. And for us, that archway is an important part of our history. Every stone does form an arch, singly none. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. And I thought recently our plans in Nuns Island are represented by those drops of water turning a mill, singly none. So every stone does form an arch, singly none. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. Together what we will can be accomplished still. And I still think that is the case. Even though we have passed through challenging times, together what we will can be accomplished still. It's an old miners' union song, but nonetheless powerful in its message, that we are not only pledging today a name, the University of Galway, Ulster Galway, but we're also here pledging a community that together can make a difference, that together what we will can be accomplished still. And I quoted in graduation the Persian philosopher Rumi. A colleague came up to me after and said, is it the Irish Rooney? And I said, no, it's Rumi, R-U-M-I. And thinking about today, I looked up Rumi, and he has a poem which is around about being woven. And again, in the context of Galway and in Galway and from Galway, that sense of being woven. He talks about building walls together. Those walls protect the grain, particularly important right now, as we know, in the context of what's going on in the world. That reeds and rushes to singly blow to the wind, but when you weave them together, they make a mat. And then he has a set of words or a sentence which, particularly for an academic context, particularly important, is when pen and ink join together, that blank page can tell a story. And very much today, we are bringing pen and ink together, and we have a blank page for the future. This is recognizing the past as we have here, but most of all pledging to a future that is of Galway, that is diverse, that is in the middle of things, though at the edge, that every day looks over the horizon and wonders what's on the other side. And I'll say again, though, that song of Sweet Honey in the Rock, many stones do form an arch, singly none. Many drops of water turn a mill, singly none. Together what we will can be accomplished still. And I think the blank page, we have a video next, so that pen and ink on the blank page we'll show next. Ach tá mehel an seo, mehel láidir, tá síolte an taid agus an teagas le scapa, agus tá fómhar le bailiú, agus seo tús lá nua den ollscoil, Togal or late Takache. This is a new day, and with pen and ink together, a blank page can tell its own story, and we have a video next which represents that. Green Magiv, lot more than old school to man of weekly was shop. Thank you.
Our journey has seen us inspire world-class engineers, drive passion for the arts, pioneer breakthroughs in medicine, and set the agenda for human rights. We have guided leaders and honored revolutionaries. We have evolved to be in the top 2% of universities worldwide, Ireland's #1 for sustainable development, making a difference through our partnerships with over 3,000 institutions across 114 countries. Cuiremuid fáilte in Ishfrith an Tauch, agus rih éon lucht nua, trína léirófar bhfuil baint amach hain, is muide, ollscoil na Gaillimhe. This is the place to push boundaries, to drive cutting-edge research and respond to global challenges. This is our space to stand strong because our ambitions are high, our steps are bold, and our proud Irish spirit is unrelenting. An údar sin, tá áit an seo dúite, áit féidir leat aibriú le pobl a bhfuil bun luachan na tíbhíorte, meas, bar fáis, inmhúnatheacht agus oscailteacht. This is the place to learn and the space to grow and discover new possibilities every step of the way. That ethos is the essence of who we are, and it will keep us thriving as we rethink the future together, because we are Ollscoil na Gaillimhe, University of Galway. An áit a Manitou bar de Wahasa amach, your space and place to thrive.
That certainly gives us a sense of place, a sense of belonging, and also a sense of excitement for what lies ahead. So I'm going to talk to our panel now. I'm delighted to introduce them. We're going to have a look and discussion then about the rebrand and the rename. So welcome you all here this morning. Starting here with Dr. Maura Gagan-Quinn, Caithfirleach Udaras na Hallscoil of the Governing Authority, Professor Becky Way, Vice President and International, Emer Hines, former CEO, Text 100 Global Communications, Sai Guj-Ola, Students' Union President, and Dr. Paul Dodd, Vice President Engagement. You're all very welcome. Give them a round warm of applause. Martha, so milatsa mar an fisean sin a honnig muid baléir céco lárnach is atá an Gaeilge san Ollscoil seo. Céco táhachtach is a bhí sé go anam na Hallscoil a dá-hangach.
Fíortháhachtach, mar tá sein cheola mar strátéis nó Gaeilge sa mbliain seáite, mí aibreán na bliana seáite. Agus ag an am bhí neidir daoine tá gobar san Ollscoil agus daoine tíomh mugan Ollscoil ar síimeach fi céir a bhí ar bunagad. Agus an rud tá tábhacht a faoin ná mar a haint tú ar lear chur gás an Ollscoil seo tá rud breise agat na chualaigh na Hallscoil in dhéile agus tá sin fíortháhachtach. Agus bheith daoine a rá a gcónaí chur gás táidir imong na Gaeltachtain seo ach mar a lua an tuachtarán tá Gaeltacht dhéile faoin ar gúrum freisin cos le tír chonalagus mar sin muo. Agus tá sé tábhachtach go dúr faoi aitheantas go na Gaeilge, go dúr chuid cóna, dóibh siúd ar fad atá gobar san acadamh ach freisin go na holamh ar fad atá búsáid na Gaeilge. Agus margheall sin an státéis cheolamar is strátéis nó íseacha bhfuil chulahain na bailteach leis na micléin agus an idirnteagas Ollscoil héin.
As chair of the university's governing authority, the decision and process to rename, you're not going to tell us all the details, I know, at this point, but I'm sure there's been a lot of time, a lot of discussions and consultations involved. Like, how much time went into this?
Well, actually, around the same time as we launched the Irish strategy, the Irish language strategy, was when we had our first discussion. in relation to the renaming of the university. Now, as I understand it, before I came in as chair, there had been some discussions, not very detailed discussions, but some talk at least of the change. I'm very conscious today there are several of the members of the Údaráis here present, but I think we'd all agree that of all of the issues that came up for discussion, it was the one that engaged every single member of the Údaráis. Everybody had a view, whether it was about the name, how the name should be done, dáhangach, what colours should be used. We got into very much nitty-gritty of things. But we had, I think, Paul O'Doherty probably came before the Údaráis at least on 5 occasions. And I'm sure Paul would say that on the first, maybe the third occasion, he thought, it's put to bed now, it's finished. And he discovered, no, actually, we want to speak more about it. Because it was a very, it was a hugely important decision, and a decision that you couldn't make or take lightly. And you had to think about the future, because a lot of people were saying, well, this will be the last time it will ever happen. And it hadn't happened since 1997. So people were very conscious of all of those issues. And definitely there was very detailed discussion and lots of tough questions being asked by members of the Údaráis. But we came to the decision at the end of the day, and today is a wonderful day for the university, for the staff, for the students, for everybody. So we're very pleased and very proud.
Also, when you look at a lot of universities, there's abbreviations. So UCD, I'm looking at that face, I know what's coming. UCD, for example, University College Dublin. The name that now is going to be going by is Ulster na Gaillimh University of Galway. You don't believe that should be abbreviated. Why so?
I don't, and actually I don't even have to answer the question, because I think the President put it very well when he explained the importance of the word of. And I think we're a very open university. We're very conscious of being respectful. We're also conscious of diversity within the university. We've worked very hard, and the staff of the university and the students have worked very hard with the President to ensure that all of the things that we set out in our latest strategy are put into place. Everybody's working towards the same goal at the end of the day. So if you look at, say, the nearest one that would have the same lettering would be University of Glasgow. Nobody refers to it as UOG or UG. So I think it would be a real tragedy if we lost that really important of in the middle.
So we've all been told. So no one can start this coming out today. Becky, you're very welcome. So you were Vice President here with responsibility for internationalisation. You joined the Rebrand steering group to advise on the international considerations of the rename. So from your perspective, what does this renaming, rebranding mean for your efforts in connecting this institution with audience around the world?
Thanks, Gráinne. And as a university, we're on a really ambitious global journey about building our global reputation. And we have the Global Galway project, which is underpinning and driving that activity. And the reasons we're doing that are because building those connections grows not only our reputation and our ranking, but it drives the quality of our research and our teaching, and allows people to sort of feel a real pride and connection and linkage with the university. And of course, being a global university is critical to our future. It's critical to the delivery of our values as a university. But it builds diversity. The President made reference to it, and Maura's made reference to it, that actually being a diverse university is so enriching for us as a university. It encourages tolerance and humility and understanding, and all the things that we need as a university, as a region, and as a nation to continue growing. So internationalisation, globalisation is hugely important for us as a university. Our previous identity confused our international audiences somewhat, and actually, today is such an exciting day because we have this brilliant new identity. We're now what we say we are on the tin. We're the University of Galway, Oscail na Gaillimh. It's very clear. The President's really articulated that sense of we're of Galway. but we're also, well beyond the boundaries of Galway. So that's what we're all about. And also, Oscail na Gaillimhe, sorry. I'm working on it. The University of Galway, it's a bilingual university, and that dual identity is, I think, something that actually is going to be really important in our international journey. It really marks us out as open, as celebrating our identity and our culture and our bilingual status as a university. And I think we shouldn't shy away from that on the global stage. I actually think that it's something that we should be proud of, that we should sell, that we should really warmly invite the world to engage in with us. So that, I see this moment as a way of encouraging the pride that our staff and our students feel in being part of this university, as really sort of cementing that and giving it a forward-looking direction. And then we have alumni who go out all over the world and taking Oscail na Gaillimhe, University of Galway identity with them, with pride, is absolutely what we want to happen. So I think this is just an exciting moment and a brilliant opportunity for us on our global journey.
You've touched on there, and everyone has spoken about the bilingualism and the Dulhangus and how important it is. It is a unique selling point, and it's something that we all should be very proud about. But from your perspective now, how significant is that when you're going out around the world and attaching that into the rebrand?
I think it's very significant. There's a temptation to think that the world won't understand the importance of a bilingual university, but actually I think what it says is, this is us, this is our culture, this is what we're all about, and please come and join that. And there's a part of this which is, come and be part of something special. Come to Ireland and really learn about Ireland. Be part of a university that's deeply embedded and supporting the culture around it. So I see it as a real asset in how we promote ourselves globally, and not something that we should in any way hide away or detract from. And when we were discussing the brand and how we position Oscail na Gaillimhe, completely supportive of that being the top line of our identity, because I think, it's something that we should absolutely celebrate worldwide.
Just talk to me a little bit about how Oscail na Gaillimhe, University of Galway, it performs on the global stage. And what way will that be enhanced now with this new name and brand?
Absolutely. Well, you saw from the video connections with 141 countries around the world. We have a growing international student and staff community within the university. We also have more and more students going out into the world on placements, on Erasmus. And everything about that allows people to grow and transform themselves, to enhance their career prospects in the future. So the sense that everyone goes out into the world or comes here because they recognize this strong identity, the fact that we're a university that are rooted in our culture, but we want to be a diverse university, but with this understanding that we're an Irish university that celebrate bilingualism and the culture that surrounds bilingualism, I think really gives us a way of making ourselves differentiated on the world stage. And more what we're seeking to do in the future is to grow more partnerships, to grow more connections and collaborations with universities, communities, governments around the world, and for that to be a real two-way relationship. So we come to that saying, this is who we are, and we're a bilingual university. We're Oscail na Gaillimhe, University of Galway. Celebrate that with us.
Emer, you're very welcome. Thank you. I remember meeting you at the 2018 Alumni Awards night before COVID happened, before we even knew what COVID was. So great to see you again.
Thank you.
You have so much experience. I mean, you're former CEO of Tex 100. Just the global aspect there that Becky was chatting about. You're based in New York. So what was the perception from your side of the water of University of Galway?
Well, it's interesting because when I joined the foundation board in the US, I had to really think about how do we present the university in the US specifically to our target audiences, whether that's alumni, academics, future potential students. And my sense was the US, from an academic perspective, is highly competitive. So the ability to cut through the noise and to be able to differentiate yourself was something that I certainly wrestled with a little bit. And I used to think about it in terms of 3 C's. There was the curriculum, there was the culture, and there was the context of Ireland. And curriculum, to me, is table stakes. You know, you can be the best academic institution, but you're competing with extraordinarily well-known, well-recognized, particularly in the US, academic institutions. So we have to be at the top of that. In terms of culture, that's huge. Obviously, the context of being Irish and being from Ireland in North America is certainly a differentiator. But then I thought there are several other universities from Ireland also competing to cut through. So ultimately, the thing that resonated most with the people I spoke to about was the context of Galway. And I loved the way Ciarán described of Galway, because to me, that was the most extraordinary aspect of what it is like to be part of this university. I mean, I grew up here and I went to university here. I'm incredibly proud of being of Galway and from Galway. But I think the context of all that it affords us, it's not to lose sight of it's the university, but it's the ability to leverage so much of what Galway has to offer, whether it's, you know, from a medical perspective, marine biology, you know, the list is endless. And I do think now that we're coming out of COVID, we are going to be dealing with a whole new generation of people who will at the very least expect academic excellence, but they want an emotional connection. You know, we're seeing this in the workplace, we're seeing it in academia, that people want to feel an emotion, and they can get academic excellence, you know, in many places. But I think what Galway has to offer, and what I feel will resonate most, is a much deeper, a more personal engagement. And this notion of inclusivity and openness really drives to the heart of that.
You're an expert in public relations, marketing and branding, and you have so much experience in this area. So advice, like what would your advice be to share with us here today for the university to enhance themselves going forward?
Well, the way I look at branding is really almost like you're an individual person, and at some point along the way, you realize perhaps the look and feel of how you present yourself is not fit for purpose. And I did feel that when I talked to Paul a little bit, that NUIG, you know, probably for many good reasons worked for the period of time it did, but the notion of getting to a point where you need to change how you present yourself to reflect who you truly are is fundamentally where we are at the moment. So for me, it's incredibly exciting to see all of the work, and I'm really respect the amount of process and the amount of rigor that went into this. This was not something that came easily. And when you see that done in the way it was done here, you have a huge amount of confidence that the brand will move forward. The only point I would make is that for a long time, it's process, it's rigor, it's making sure we're doing the right thing. We've got the right colors, we've got the right look, the right feel. Everything feels like it represents the university. However, like anything that you're projecting out into the world, that's only a reflection of what's inside. And so as we move forward from today as the launch, we have to think about, okay, how is this reinforced by the strategy of the university? A strategy that's been laid out with a clear sense of purpose, a vision for the future, and how do we make sure that the brand is a reflection of that and not something that's just a lovely new logo, bilingual, color scheme, and so on, but how do we reinforce over and over again that this represents a much deeper sense of a vision for a future that is compelling and exciting and something that makes people sit up and say, wow, that's a differentiator. So while today is important about launching it, I think the short, medium, and long term is going to be way more about how do we make sure this represents truly who we are, and we continue to ladder up to what the brand represents.
Sai, you're very welcome. Congratulations, you've been recently appointed as president of the Students' Union, so hope you're enjoying it. It's quite recent, I think it was July, was the beginning of July that it happened, so well done. You've also been studying here in University of Galway over the past number of years, so how important do you feel it is for students to have an affinity with the place that they study in?
So, like, today we're gathered here as we welcome a new era in our university history as we become the University of Galway, Oscail na Gaillimhe. And it's amazing that we can come here together to celebrate new beginnings. But it's also important what the brand represents and what we carry forward from our old brand, especially into the new one, into University of Galway. And that we don't forget some of our pressing issues that we faced last year as NUI Galway. And the last few weeks have been trying for both the Students' Union and the university itself, especially in terms of the extremities of the housing crisis. And this new brand gives us a new hope, and a new hope that we can work together to implement viable solutions while listening to the most important people on this campus, who are our students. So, and I'm hoping that our new identity will bring better things in the future.
Yeah,
and that's what's the most important thing for our student community.
Absolutely, and I think what you've raised there, I think a lot of universities around Ireland are suffering similar as well at the moment. In terms of this new brand, and you mentioned it there, and identity, like what does it mean to you? What are your student colleagues saying to you about this change?
So for students, when we're in the university, we're a student, but once we go outside, we're a University of Galway student, and I think that's the biggest identity that a student has. And even during conferrings, as the President mentioned earlier, the logo on our degree is the most important thing, where it mentions that you have graduated from University of Galway, and that's the biggest identity that a student feels and wants in the student community.
A sense of pride, a sense of belonging to it, yes. Thank you, Si, for that. Paul, you're very welcome. You're similar, you just came to Galway here earlier this year from a senior position in higher education in the US West Coast. So similar to Eamon earlier, like what is the view of the University of Galway from that vantage point?
Yeah, I think Galway is a very recognizable place now worldwide. People know where it is and know what it's about, even if they haven't visited. Unfortunately, the university under its previous name wasn't quite getting the benefit of that to the same extent, and that quite simply is why we just put the two things together. Galway is a fantastic place to be, and this is a great university, so keep it as simple as that. And I think Irish people are natural storytellers. We like to tell stories, we like to hear stories, and I think this gives us a better platform for connecting, both locally, nationally, and internationally. Just stating that location that we come from and what we're about.
As Vice President for Engagement, I understand your portfolio of responsibilities includes marketing, communications, and development, and alumni relations. So how can this change in name and brand help you and your team create meaningful partnerships both here at home and abroad?
Well, I think, as was touched on earlier, it gives us a great opportunity to celebrate the past, to make sure that people are aware that great things have happened here and are happening here. It also gives us this opportunity to link into the future through our alumni, through potential donors, through potential partnerships, both again, locally, nationally, and internationally, where we take this new platform and we communicate the values of the university, very importantly and centrally, but also the key areas that we want to develop and advance by demonstrating why we do them, who we work with, and how people can join us, both as individuals and as institutions. So I think that's the great opportunity here, both from changing our way of marketing the university, which has been good, and I'm fortunate to have a great marketing communications team here that I'm working with. But we're trying to become more proactive. We're trying to tell a more concise, more consistent, and actually more compelling story on behalf of the university. So that's what we're hoping we will get from this.
Eamon touched on it there, just about the strategy, and I'm not going to say the hard work starts now, but maybe some of the hard work certainly starts now. So the plans going forward, like where are we going from today?
So the reality, of course, is this transition isn't going to happen right now overnight. There's many, many aspects to this that actually may run for a couple of years actually before we're completely transformed. But in the immediate future, from here forward, and getting wonderful advice from many partners, including Mammoth, the marketing consulting firm we work with, but also Emer has been extremely generous with her time and expertise in giving us advice. We're going to end up in a blitz process for about the next 4 to 5 weeks where you are going to hear a lot about the University of Galway. I apologise in advance, you're going to be sick of hearing about the University of Galway. But that persistence of messaging and ensuring that people really understand that this place is the University of Galway is really, really critical at a time when there are new universities in Ireland. We need to be really clear that, you know, who we are and what we're going to do. But once we get through that phase, to some extent, then the really interesting opportunities start emerging. So we have a whole series of different forms of media that we are going to be pushing over the next 4 to 5 weeks. That's, you know, social media of all platforms, print, radio, TV, hopefully to some extent as well. But the messaging then beyond that, we start to talk about who we are, what our values are. Not that they won't be in the messaging at the start as well, but really starting to change gears and talking about sustainability, talking about biomedical research, talking about Creative Galway, talking about the themes that are extremely strong here, that are really important to us. And it's not that we're going to stop doing responsive, proactive, opportunistic marketing. We're going to do that as well, of course. But having a theme and a concept that runs for some time periods, we've talked about rotating some of these banner flagship ideas every maybe 3 months or so. I think that's going to be part of it. And the other thing I would say is in-person engagement. I think everyone is so, you know, done with COVID now at this stage, frankly, that we're enjoying trying to get back together in person more. So we have some partnership events planned in Galway. First of all, of course, later this month, we're planning something. We're going to be announcing the name and engaging in Dublin as well, and then further afield we planned in London and the early stages of planning for something probably in New York. So certainly a combination of launching, taking the opportunity of the name change to highlight all the great things that have happened and are happening here, and saying to the world, we are who we are, we want to partner with you and work with you. So I think that's where there's hopefully going to be a bit of a different appearance to NUIG to now University of Galway.
Well, we wish you every success with that. Gormila Maigi, thank you so much for talking to us this morning. Again, you should throw a bit more to our panel. Lever done. Anish Agini Ushla, on Kushgwil Midge a lig on Shaw. We are delighted that the Minister for Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, Simon Harris, is here to officially launch the new name and brand of Ulscoil na Gaillimhe University of Galway. Prior to his appointment in June 2020, Minister Harris was the Minister for Health from 2016 and worked tirelessly in this role and was a voice of quiet calm as a global pandemic struck. He was first elected to the Dáil Éireann in 2011 at the general election and was the youngest member of the 31st Dáil. Marshin, Boilam Fáilte Occur, Rivan Aris, Simon Harris, Con Anam Nua Ifagul na Housekeeping Rules.
Good morning, thank you so much, and it's great to be here in Galway for what is really such a day of celebration, and thank you for inviting me, President and Chair, to be a part of it. Thank you to the new President of the Students' Union. I look forward to meeting with you and discussing many of the pressing issues. And I'm delighted to be here in Galway with the Mayor of Galway, Councillor Clodagh Higgins, with my colleague and good friend, Minister Hildegard Naughton, members of the Galway County Council, City Council, members of the Oireachtas. It is great to be here with you. And I want to take the opportunity of today's event to very publicly say thank you to what is now the University of Galway for the leadership you have played and you do play in advancing what I think are core values that we hold as a country and core priorities that we hold in terms of wanting to create a more inclusive society, a society where everybody can reach their full potential, regardless of where they came from, what their mum or dad did before them, what their gender is, or any other detriment or situation that they may encounter. And I'm very proud of all of our universities. But today, we're making a conscious decision through the Higher Education Authority to award performance awards to a small number of universities around the country who have gone above and beyond. And I'm delighted this morning in what is now the University of Galway to formally announce that Galway is a recipient of that award. And that with that award comes €800,000 to support you in progressing that agenda. This is a university that, long before others were, stepped up to the plate in making sure the members of the travelling community were welcome and included, and really incredible and moving work done in that space. It's been a university that led the way when it came to things like active consent and tackling sexual harassment. It was the first university in the country to introduce paid leave for survivors of domestic violence. It's a university that has put students with disabilities at the heart of all that they do. And it's for those reasons and many others, including your pathways between further education and higher education, that today we congratulate the University of Galway and that we present this award and this funding in recognition of all that you've achieved. Congratulations, Cohortigus. Today is a really important day, and I know no university takes the decision to rebrand or rename itself lightly, though you've done it more than others. We'll get to that in a second. But I know this is a decision you didn't take lightly. I know there's been a huge amount of work that has gone in to arriving at this point, and I actually know from being in Galway Bay FM a few moments before I came here and listening to a vox pop of people on the streets of Galway City that there's actually an excitement around this process. This is a university that is of the city. It is a university that is of the region. And today you're very much bringing Galway closer yet again to the name of the university. I think that's right and proper. It's a university that has served the city, the county, the region, the country since the mid-19th century, when you first opened your doors in October 1845 with an intake of 68 students, back then called Queen's College Galway. During the first academic year, 3 faculties on campus: arts, medicine and law, and schools of agriculture and engineering. In 1908, it was changed to University College Galway, or UCG for short, as we know. And just 14 years later, the college made waves by having a greater number of female students than male students on campus. In 1997, it was changed again to the National University of Ireland Galway, or NUIG. 4 colleges, 19 schools, 175 years providing university education. And today, you become Ullscoil na Gaillimh, University of Galway, and let's hope this is it now, and I believe it will be. This new name is really brilliant. I think it gives a real sense of place, a real sense of pride in the place that you occupy, and it very much tells the story of who you are as an institution. This is a region, this is a city that is a place of industry. It's a place of creativity. It's a place of community. It's a place of debate. It's a university in a region that can be proud of the role you've played in making Galway become a truly global city. It's a university which has grown alongside the city. And I really believe that this rebrand encapsulates that history. It encapsulates the history and it looks to the future. It can help to maximize the potential for the university in that international context that I heard Paul speak of a few moments ago. Because this is a university home to almost 4,000 international students from 110 different countries, making you Ireland's most international university. I think this is a legacy that the people of Galway are and can be proud of. People come here for education, but they come here for more than that. They come here for the crack. They come here for the community. They come here for the character of a beautiful city. We're talking a lot about the word rebrand, but we're not talking about it, nor should we talk about it in isolation. I think there are other words that matter as much: renewal, refocus, re-energize. And after what has been an extraordinarily difficult period of time for our country and our world, a time where this campus lay silent in large parts as people had to learn online, a time when we had to know what was within our 2 kilometres or our 5 kilometres because we were afraid to go beyond it, a time where we continue to live in a world where the very democratic values that we cherish and that we celebrate here today are under threat on this continent of Europe. It's so important that the rebranding is now coupled with a real programme of work to renew, higher education in Ireland. And whether that means sustainably funding higher education and for the first time ever settling the question and now knowing the amount we need to invest in higher education, ruling out student loans, recognizing that we're going to invest more public funds because education is a public good. Whether it's about genuinely recognizing that we need a new policy and plan properly funded on student accommodation so we have affordable on-campus college accommodation. Whether it's the new national access plan that we launched yesterday, saying that we want everybody in this country to be able to reach its full potential. Whether it's our new national research strategy, Impact 2030, which this university is going to be at the heart of delivering. Your rebranding exercise goes alongside an entire work programme that we want to travel through together with you, because we want to make the student experience better, we want to make the staff experience better, we want to properly fund higher education, and we do that not just because it's nice to do it. We do it because we know the economic and social futures of individual citizens and this country depends on it. So today is really a day of celebration, a day of massive celebration of Cordigas, a day where we come together to start a new chapter for this historic institution, for this county, for this city, and to start it with confidence. But after we celebrate, we really now redouble our efforts on delivering the sustainable funding model, implementing the National Access Plan, cracking student accommodation once and for all, and implementing our new national research strategy. I believe today here in Galway, you are creating an opportunity to build a lasting legacy for this city, for its hinterland, for our country. You're going to boost your region's reputation. You're going to set out to build new relationships in Europe and beyond. You now have settled on a very clear identity, and this rebrand will be looked back on in time as an exciting new milestone for this university, a university uniquely placed to serve the West of Ireland. I look forward to working with your president and your chair of your governing authority in due course to enshrine the name in legislation. And I want to finish today with words that I think can inspire us all. This is a university that has educated Taoiseach, business leaders, sports leaders, community leaders, and a president. And I want to finish with the words of Uachtaráin na hÉireann and Michael D. Higgins, because he said, "We in Ireland are fortunate to have so many young people in this country who promise to become problem solvers, critical thinkers, persistent learners of tomorrow. You, the citizens of the future, are so essential to crafting a shared and better life for all who inhabit our fragile planet. The world is ours. It's up to you to protect it, nurture it, and all those who inhabit it." In the words of President Higgins, let's accept his challenge today. This is the reason we all get out of bed in the morning. This is the reason those of you work here in the University of Galway. This is the reason those of you study here in the University of Galway, to make your county, your community, your country, and your world a better place. And I've no doubt the University of Galway begins this new chapter from a position of strength and excitement, and I look forward to travelling the journey with you. Gurb míle maith.
I'd like to call on Anish Untitled Paul O'Doherty, Deputy President and Registrar and Chair of the Rebrand Steering Group, to speak and close today's event.
Ollscoil na Galway, University of Galway, tá cum away sin. Is Ollscoil muid mar a dúirt san Tuachtaráin, agus is in Galway támuid. Lunithe seo, sa chathair seo, sa chundaí seo, in Uachtaráin na hÉireann, agus in sa tír seo. Ré nua atá an dúin, ré sprágó atá an dúin, ré iontach atá an dúin. Sometimes the stars align, colleagues. I came to this city to work, and this university to work in 2014. And almost from the off, I would hear occasional noises that that name NUI Galway, what is it? Is it National University of Ireland Galway with a comma or without a comma? Is it NUI Galway? Is it NUIG? Is it NUI Galway? Apparently we would occasionally get asked what the New Zealand connection is, because NUI is a Maori word for big. And then there was evidence suggesting that we were losing a lot of our prestigious citations because of that comma in National University of Ireland Galway, which made it look like we were a campus of Merrion Square, the NUI in Merrion Square. In early 2021, in an interregnum in the vice president role that was filled then by Paul Dodd, who started with us at the beginning of this year, I took temporary ownership of the marketing and comms function in the university, and the president and I discussed whether this was now the opportunity to look again at the name. One thing led to another. We did some initial conversations with a couple of experts in the field. We then spoke to the chair of UDRIS, and the chair of UDRIS, and Maura, pay tribute here because you did say I would like to get it through in 3 meetings if possible. In my ideal world, I got it through in 1 meeting. But actually, you were absolutely clear that there were 2 things that were required to do this and do this well, and that you would expect them in a university. Firstly, you consult widely, and we did. And we asked members of UMT to nominate individuals to go into different working groups, consultation groups. They were staff, they were students, they were alumni, they were prospective students, national and international. They were governors of the university, they were external stakeholders, and we consulted as widely as we possibly could, and that all pointed us in a certain direction. The second thing is that we would actually look at the research, again, as you would expect and require in a university. There were little bits of research that had been done over the years that suggested that the name wasn't doing us justice, that it was harming our reputation, our recognizability. We were the second least recognized university in the Republic here, even though Galway is the most recognized city in the Republic after Dublin. And so we looked at all of that, we put the evidence together, we put the proposals, they were subject to rigorous scrutiny, and I want to pay tribute to Maura for her chairing of governing authority, because it meant that when we reached the decision to go for the simplicity that we've got, Ulster na Galway, University of Galway, we are a university, we're in this city, but we're also of this city, and we're in this region, from Letterkenny down to Shannon, from Ballinasloe in the east to Connemara in the west, but we are Galway at the centre of this, and a university. It doesn't get more simple, and to address the point that was made earlier, and I hope this will be the last name change for the institution, frankly, it's hard to see how it could be bettered. So we are where we are, and I'm delighted that we've got here, and I want, first of all, or lastly then, just to pay tribute to a number of people who have been an important part of that journey. We've had a steering group, and that has been Paul Dodd, Becky Way have been part of that, Breed Shoige, Nuala Nichanile, Ed Carty and Michelle Nicronin. I want to pay particular tribute to Ed Carty in Marketing and Comms and Michelle Nicronin in my office, who really held it together as we've gone through from meeting to meeting, consulted with external stakeholders. We've had an external company, Mammoth, who have been at the centre of this, and there are several people there, Jamie Armstrong, Sarah McGee, Michelle Sewell, Adam Wilson, Alan Erskine, Paul Martin, who have all been part of that. I want to thank the Minister for being here today to be part of this, because it really is important that we have that recognition, that we have you here, and the things that you've said about this university, they so represent what this university stands for. So I'm delighted that you agreed to be part of this today. I want to thank Maura, as I say again, for the rigour with which she ensured that we conducted the process to get here. And I also want to thank the President for the attitude that he took to this, because there's something intensely liberating about being able to have discussions and then being told, now go off and do the research. By the way, we don't have the result before we've even looked, but we have a sense of what direction we're going, but I want you to do the work, and I'm open to whatever it produces. I'm open to whatever results it produces. Not all leaders are like that, but this one is, and I want to pay tribute to that, Kieran. So I said that I temporarily in 2021 took ownership of marketing and comms in the university. We appointed Dr. Paul Dodd as Vice President for Engagement last January, and Paul has now got ownership of that remit along with the foundation and alumni relations. And whilst there has been certainly a lot of hard work up to now, some of the hard work from here on in is all Paul's, and I'm delighted to be handing over to Paul. He and I both, and lots of others, are getting emails already and texts already. Have you got the latest logo? Can I have it as a JPEG to put it in the bottom of my emails, or put it on this, put it on that? There will be policing of the logo and the brand, and let's be clear about that. This is a new brand. It will not be the multi-brand variety that we had of NUI Galway. But that work is going over to Paul and to his office, and I wish Paul the very best in that. We've appointed a really outstanding individual in and of this country, but with massive international experience, and I think we're in safe hands in rolling out this brand. So on that note, I will finish. I want to thank Grania for emceeing today's event. That's been splendid, and it's great to hear the Ulster Irish about the place. And I just want to hand over now to the Galway Traditional Orchestra to sign off on the event. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, if that doesn't leave you in a good mood this morning, nothing will. We can't do anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, Gora Mila Maigad Rishli Ita, Agus and Kjol Earn Hrathershunta in the Gailava. That's it from us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. There are refreshments out in the foyer. We hope we see you out there. So, Slánawala, Agus Jean Kéderala Slánab.